In this video, I'm going to share with you why a remake of a silent film has generated over $100 million and how you can take the keys to that film's success to make your own business thrive. Robert Eggers' fourth film, Nosferatu, is a remake of a 1922 silent German film. It's slow, it's psychosexual, the performances are over the top, people in the movie theaters are laughing when it's supposed to be serious. The vampire design is getting all this flack online. All these reasons the movie shouldn't be a success, but that's not the case. The movie's everywhere, so why is this working? Let me tell you why I went to see the movie in the first place, as someone who doesn't necessarily think that Eggers is a good storyteller. So when his first film, The Witch, came out, I couldn't decide if I liked it or not. And that's usually a sign that it's a good movie, because I felt the same way about Blue Velvet and American Psycho. And I think both of those movies are fantastic, but at first I didn't know, but then I found myself returning to them over and over again. So there's something there. For me, The Witch and the follow-up film, The Lighthouse, what keeps them from being great movies is they don't feel like stories. I love the way The Witch looked. I like that he really emphasizes the historical language in his films. I mean, hell, The Lighthouse I had to watch with subtitles on. But the problem is, his movies are structured in a way where this happens, and then this happens, and then this happens. So with a film like The Witch, it's like, oh, okay, here's the obligatory exorcism scene. Oh, here's this scene that really feels like something out of The Shining. It's basically a film that contains interesting moments, but it just leaves you cold. Now, that doesn't mean it's a bad film, but that does mean that your audience is going to feel like something's off, because unconsciously they recognize it's not a story. A story has something happen, therefore this happens, but then this happens. Everything rolls into the next thing. It takes a really special filmmaker to make a film that's just a series of vignettes and it work. You have to be a Perzhanov or a Jodorowsky to really pull off something like that. And then you don't have a traditional film, you have surrealism. So why did I even go see Nosferatu if I'm saying I didn't really like his first couple movies? I go to see these movies in the theater because I'm using my money to tell Hollywood and the theater owners, please keep making more artistic horror films. Please keep making B movies. I went to see Night Swim about this time a year ago. Is Night Swim a good movie? No. But am I going to say Are You Afraid of the Dark is a bad TV show? No. And Night Swim was basically like going to the theater to see an Are You Afraid of the Dark episode. So I went to Nosferatu 1 because I want them to make more B movies and more artistic B movies. But there's another reason I went. I had a hunch, story-wise, Nosferatu might be pretty damn good. And this is why. The fact that it's a remake. So he's not reinventing the wheel here. He's not starting from ground zero. Eggers already has a fantastic story, basically the Dracula story, made by Murnau, and forgive me, I can't remember who wrote the screenplay, but in Eggers' own words, Nosferatu makes Stoker's Dracula more of a fairy tale, more archetypal. So I love that. I knew like the movie's going to be beautiful because Eggers basically makes movies so he can have awesome production design, awesome costumes, and great cinematography. So I knew it's going to look beautiful. And the story's already there. So one thing I want you to take away is if you're a writer, you can take things that already exist and use them for your own work. What is it, like Popeye, Sherlock Holmes, well, maybe even Robin Hood? There's all these figures who have recently entered the public domain. You cannot copyright a title. You can't. So that's why you get movies like, what was the new movie that Armie Hammer is going to be in, called The Dark Knight or something? Like, yeah, you can call it The Dark Knight. Unless the title itself is like some trademarked figure or brand, you can call your movie, your song, your book, anything you want. You can't copyright titles. So, despite the flack that you're going to get from the haters and the people who aren't doing the thing, you can take pre-existing material and make it your own. Essentially, what I'm telling you to do is, if it resonates with you, fan fiction is okay. You can write that great Phantom of the Opera erotic thriller, you know? You can take Carmilla by J. Sheridan Le Fanu and make your own great lesbian vampire story. And no one can stop you, because guess what? Any vampire movie with lesbians is going to be called a ripoff of Carmilla. Carl Theodor Dreyer, one of the greatest filmmakers of all time, his film Vampyr, they even put on there that it's a pseudo-adaptation of Carmilla. There's really nothing in that movie that's from Carmilla other than the fact that it turns out the vampire is a woman, but this is an old woman. I mean, there's really nothing there. So you have permission to take pre-existing things and claim them, especially when it's iconic classic literature that's in the public domain. Now, why would you want to do that? Other than the fact that, you just want to do fan fiction. Well, this is why you want to do it, because true originality is not something plucked out of thin air that no one's ever seen before. That kind of stuff no one watches. I could create something totally original, and there's going to be no emotional connection to it whatsoever. Something that's truly original takes something that already exists, something familiar, and it twists it. Something familiar with a twist. That is what people want. To go back to my movie Blue Velvet, I told you I didn't initially like it. I couldn't, and maybe I didn't like it because really don't know why I didn't like it. Maybe it was my expectations, but now I love it. That movie kind of gives you this like coming of age, almost Hardy Boys mystery story, but then it puts this very real and scary, raw, psychosexual thing in there, but also with surrealism. And that, my friend, is totally original, even though the ingredients are not. So let's go back to Nosferatu. I went into that movie with no expectations, other than I knew it would look pretty. But I was like, is it going to be a Bram Stoker's Dracula? Maybe not. The other reason that movie is so successful is not just because it has updated a classic story that people really like, but the film itself. This is my personal belief, and I'd be interested to know if anyone disagrees, but my personal belief is that Nosferatu is making such a splash, specifically with young moviegoers, is because it captures the zeitgeist of male and female relationships. This movie shows you exactly what the dating market is right now. That movie ended, and I thought, he's me. I'm Nosferatu. I believe that's what a lot of people are resonating with. You know, we joke about men getting cucked, and we joke about hypergamy and women monkey branching to other men. All that great stuff that really sells. You know, that content, the men going their own way, the red pill. That content is really, really popular. And I'm sure on TikTok there is the female equivalent, but I don't know what the title of that would be. But all that is in the movie. So even though it's taking place in 1838, you are seeing these characters act out these same dramas. And I don't want there to be any confusion. I don't believe any of this is new. So I'm talking about the current dating market, but none of this is new. Men and women have been doing the same thing for eternity. It's only because we have social media and that it isn't as stigmatized, sex, that it has just gotten hyper in our faces. But it's always been going on. You know, our ancestors weren't prudes. And, you know, your great-great-grandma, whether she acted on her desires or not, still desired something better. You know, successful men of the past, obviously, were still seducing women and cheating on their wives. So, Nosferatu is so popular right now because unconsciously people resonate with it. It's a fairy tale that encapsulates how men and women destroy each other because of these reptile brains that we want the darkness. We want the evil and just we want it. But the other reason that it's successful is because Robert Eggers, he knows the material, he knows the genre, but he's not the best writer. Yet that's okay. I think he has a pretty solid filmography, even though The Witch is lacking, and even though The Lighthouse, I'll have to watch it again. I'm sure there's stuff in there that I missed, and it's a movie that needs a rewatch. But, you know, other than it looking like Andrei Rublev on an island, you know, it was not an engaging story to me. There was nothing at stake. I didn't really care. As far as The Witch goes, I'll tell you, my big problem with The Witch is the scene where the younger brother sees like the Little Red Riding Hood witch out in the woods, and it looks like she's just wearing a cheap, you know, Little Red Riding Hood costume from Spirit Halloween. That scene just took me out of the movie. The best scene in The Witch, well, the best scenes are the opening scene and the ending scene, and everything in between just kind of feels like we're watching this gothic Barry Lyndon Shining thing. So how do you do this? Well, you want to write what you're passionate about, and you want to hold on loosely but don't let go, because you can't force the zeitgeist into your work. But if you pull this little hack that I learned from my writing mentor Chris Lee, write what you don't know about the thing you know. So for me, yeah, I could sit down and write a Phantom of the Opera story where, you know, there is a woman who is not satisfied, you know, by her normal life. You know, she's got a husband and a family, but she's willing to throw it all away for this Svengali who lives under the theater. I could do that. It's just walking that fine line of not trying to jam a theme down someone's throat. But you think about, well, I know a little bit about this. What would happen if they were a vampire? You know, what would happen if they were the Hunchback of Notre Dame? You know, you take something that you know, and then you explore this whole other direction, and people will resonate with it. So have no fear